Well, hey, all you cool cats and kittens. It's your pal Ezra and Carol Baskin here. We're just going to be talking about some true crime and snacks. Hey, y'all. What's up? Hey. Hi, y'all. Hi, y'all. Hi. Sorry about last night. I just needed a day. Sometimes I need that. I don't know. You know how I roll. Not correctly at all. You should have watched Tiger King Molson Man. Look, they almost lost me because at the beginning of it, I was like, this is kind of slow and I don't get the hype. Okay. But then there was episode 2, and then I was hooked. So, yeah. Hey, Shmita. Hey, Momo. Hey, Molson Man. Hey, Cement Shoes. Hey, Dave G. Happy Thursday. It's almost Friday. And, okay, I don't know if I told you guys this or not, but remember there was the other trial that I wanted to cover. Okay. So I've been keeping my eyes out for that. But good news, it's not happening until April. So that gives me plenty of time to get through Ezra like I, really wanted to. I'm not saying we're going back to watching every bit of testimony because no, it's too much. But the important stuff we will, but we can take our time. We don't have to like rush through it, and we can actually like talk about this case. So that's good. And then in other legal news, I was on the Twitters yesterday and I got a notification from, she didn't like direct message me, just a notification of her tweet, Kathleen Zellner. And she apparently is signing on with Johnny Depp's legal team to represent him in his hearing on April, I think 17th it is. I have to look it back up because that happened yesterday and I've had a sleep since then. Technically, I've had 2 sleeps. I had last night's sleep and then I had a nap today. So that's 2 sleeps. That's a lot. I can't be expected to remember things after 2 sleeps. Oh, yes, cement shoes. Do you want to cover, well, I think that's the only one they have. LA, or yeah, LA Durst, not Texas Durst. Yeah, we can totally do that. We should. That's a good idea. Hey Tony, how you doing, babe? Yeah, so okay, cool. We'll do the recent one. So yeah, his trial or his hearing in April. And then some sad news today. So the remains that were found do not belong to Susan Powell. So I'm not sure who's there. I don't think they have released who that is, but it's not Susan Powell. So I guess they're going to still be looking for her. Not my heart goes out to her family because I can't imagine. I think they have, you know, resigned themselves to the fact that she's no longer alive, but to know that and not be able to uh, have a final resting place for her has got to be just the worst. And there, unfortunately, it happens a lot more frequently than we um, really hear about. You know what I mean? So it's really sad. That's why I can't watch that show, Disappeared, on ID because there's like no ending. You know what I mean? And it's too, I can't, I need to have some level of like resolution. You know what I mean? I just can't, it's too, I don't know. Some of the, I mean, I'm weird about true crime. There's like stuff I can handle that I honestly should be not able to handle. And then there's stuff that I should be able to handle that I'm like, oh no, that's a deal breaker for me. In fact, um, I've been watching some of the trial with Ezra so that I can give you guys the best testimony. And I lucked out because the testimony that is next after the nurse is good testimony, and I think we need to hear it. Then the testimony after that is not so great, is not like super pertinent, but then the testimony after that is. So yeah, Molson, man, that one's a tough one. Um it does sound like, let me, hey Max. It does, sound like Chazzle Dazzle, and yes, Molson, man, this is another one that's just I can't. But anyway, so I was going through the trial testimony, and I was like, this is enough death for one day, right? What do I do? Horror movies. So I tried to watch House A House in the Bayou. Lame. I couldn't get into it. And so, what did I end up watching? Something equally gruesome, I'm sure, something I've seen probably 11 to billion times, but now I can't remember. But I thought to myself, how are you gonna go from trial testimony to horror movies? There's something wrong with me, I think. Yeah, that one's an interesting case too, Tony, but I haven't really been able to follow it as much as I'd like to because, you know, um, I gotta have room for I gotta do what I gotta do. Plus, I'm always keeping an eye. Okay, I will. Cement. I always gotta try to be keeping an eye out because I still like making videos for you guys. So I'm always trying to keep my eye out on on interesting cases to cover. And yeah, so I don't, there's not enough. I mean, I could make more time. I should go make more time. I really should, because I do find time to monkey around when I want to. So, hey, Lupe. All right, hang on. Let me go to Facebook. I mean, I've watched some of the stuff that Lana has talked about, and she's doing a good job. I haven't been consistent with it, so I probably just need to catch up. And then I'll be okay. All right, let me see here. Hmm. So tonight we're going to listen to Corey Reeves, and his testimony is interesting to me in that he was at the hospital with Ezra the day of. So March 22nd is what he's talking about in this testimony. It's a little bit I've been having a kind of a difficult time because it's a little bit confusing because not all of the detectives interviewed her all at once, and then some of them were present when other detectives were speaking to her and they were asking their own set of questions, and then some of them were going, like, went back the next day, which would have been the 23rd. And so and then there was the whole investigation and the locating of Alex's body on the March 23rd. So it was all sort of um in my brain for a minute. It was a little mixed up and kind of convoluted, but I figured it out and I'm all organized now when I got it. So the guy that we're going to listen to tonight is Detective Corey Reeves. And like I said, he and another detective were interviewed Ezra at the um, hospital. And it the direct examination is, interesting, sort of, but it's the cross examination that's particularly interesting because if you guys have been like, are noticing some things like a pattern of of the types of questions that the defense is asking of these investigators, which I find interesting. And what I'm particularly excited for is tomorrow night is going to be the doctor from at the Mayo Hospital, and he's going to be testifying. There's a guy that's in between Corey and this doctor. He's another detective, but he did the um, drone footage. So obviously, he is the one that operated the drone, and he ended up locating the cell phone that was found in the water, and he is the one that located the murder weapon using the drone. And that's really about all that he had to testify to, except for during his cross examination, the or the defense team asked him. See, initially, he also was out at Don Stipple's house on the 23rd. No, no, that's not right. On the 22nd. And he was in his police cruiser, and it has camera footage, has a dash cam or whatever. And he was interested in the defense attorney was interested in knowing nothing really about the drone footage. What he wanted to know is if his camera picked up the video and audio, from Ezra while she was being spoken to, waiting for the paramedics and stuff to arrive. And he's the drone operator, who's also a detective. He said, well, I didn't listen to it, I don't know, but as long as I was in range, then yeah, it would have picked that up. So I'm curious, what the defense is going to do with that, if they're going to put it on as part of their defense. All right, so let me read what's going on in chat so I don't miss anything, because I don't, let's see. Yeah, Darlie Routier is a difficult case as well, Cement Shoes. There's definitely, I would not go so far as to say that she is not guilty. What I will say is that, in my opinion, there was enough, um, there was reasonable doubt, number one, but I found it interesting, and I know that they're allowed to do this. I just don't understand why they would do it. Why the officers that testified took the fifth. I never could figure that out. And so anyway, that's all. That's an interesting case as well. So, oh, I see. Okay. You know, Nonstop Mom, it's interesting that you asked that question, because I don't actually know the answer to that based on the stuff that we've seen so far. It doesn't look like um she's figured it out yet. By the way, hi. I don't think she's at this point anyway, there's no indication that she's starting to figure out anything yet. Which is, I don't know. It's just, it'd be just conjecture at this point, because I don't have enough anything like that anybody has said with respect to Ezra that would lead me to believe that she is starting to figure things out. I think after they find Alex's body on the 23rd, I think that is when, and the line of questioning probably changed. If I had to guess, I would think that's when she started to put it together for sure. All right. So, are we ready to get started, or what do y'all want to do? It's funny that you guys say that, Molson Man and Cement Shoes, because I remember when this happened. interestingly enough, I have a little connection to Rowlett. So when my mom and dad went to go buy their second lab, we already had I had moved out by this time. I was pregnant with my oldest son, and they already had a yellow lab, Seamus, and my mom wanted a chocolate lab, Fagin is what they ended up naming her. They went to Rowlett to get Fagin. And so Rowlett is, I mean, I don't know. The way some of the documentaries and news shows make it out to seem is like it's this itty bitty small town, and it's really not. It's just a regular middle to upper middle class city, suburban. It's just the suburbs. There's nothing like now Kerrville on the other hand, that is a bit of a smaller, more conservative town, which is where her trial was held. But Rowlett's not all that, it's not like super conservative or even really all that small. Back then it was smaller than it obviously is now, but it wasn't all that small. So anyway, all right, let's get this party started. Here we go.
Could you tell us your name, please, and spell your name for the court reporter?
My name is Corey Reeves. First is Cory, last is Reeves.
And how are you employed, sir?
I work as a patrol officer for the City of Eau Claire Police Department.
How long have you worked for the City of Eau Claire Police Department as a patrol officer?
Just over 5 years.
And were you working for the City of Eau Claire as a patrol officer in March of 2018?
Yes, I was.
And on March 22nd of 2018, were you assigned to any matters relating to the investigation that we're here for today?
Yes, I was detailed to assist a Dunn County deputy at Mayo Hospital. The deputy was Emmer Shields, and he was requesting some assistance with an investigation.
All right. And did you go to Eau Claire Mayo Hospital on that day?
At one point, yes, I did.
All right. Was one of the things you were asked to do to meet with Jason Mengel?
Yes, it was.
And did you meet with him?
Yes, I did.
Where did you meet with him?
I met with him at a picnic table just outside the police department.
All right. And that's located in the City of Eau Claire?
Yes, it is.
All right. And after you met with Mr. Mengel, were you assigned to do anything else?
Yes, I was asked to try and locate a subject.
I'm sorry?
I was asked to try and locate a male subject.
And was that male subject Alex Woodworth?
Yes, it was.
What did you do to try to locate Alex Woodworth?
First, I tried to locate him at his residence. I believe it was on Cameron Street in Eau Claire.
And did you go to that residence?
Yes, I did.
And when you got there, what happened?
I made contact with one of his roommates.
Do you recall who that was?
I believe his first name was Matt. I do not remember his last name.
All right. And when you met with Matt, did you ask if Alex was there?
I did, yes.
And was Alex there at that point in time?
He was not.
And did you ask Matt to do anything to try and locate Alex Woodworth?
Yes, I did. I asked him if he had a phone number and if he could give Alex a phone call from his phone.
And did he try to do that?
Yes, he did.
And when that happened, did he, from your knowledge or from what you could observe, was he able to reach Alex?
He was not able to reach him, no.
What did you do then?
After that, I tried to locate Alex at Racy's coffee shop in Eau Claire.
Did you go there?
I did, yes.
And were you able to find Alex there?
He was not there, no.
After that, did you go to Eau Claire Mayo Hospital?
Yes, I did.
And when you went to the hospital, did you meet with anyone?
Yes.
And who did you meet with?
I met with Deputy Shields.
And did you also meet with the defendant at the hospital?
Yes, I did.
All right. And where was the defendant when you met with her?
She was in emergency room number 17.
Can you describe what you observed, or strike that? Did you go into that emergency room 17?
Yes, I did.
And when you went in there, can you describe what you observed?
I observed a female curled up in the bed. She had the blankets pulled up to her face, around her chin area. She looked like she had been crying. Her face was red. Her eyes were swollen and glossy.
And when you talked to her, did you talk to her about where she had been earlier in that day?
Yes, I did.
And where did she say she started out that day?
I asked her to describe her day from the moment that she woke up. She said that she woke up at her father's residence.
Did she say anything about her father when she said she was at her father's residence?
She did. She mentioned that her father was nice and that she missed him.
And did you ask her where she went or if she went anywhere after waking up at her father's residence?
Yes, I did. She said that she had taken a shower and gathered a few things and planned to drive to Racy's coffee shop in Eau Claire.
And did she say if she did she say where her father's residence was as far as what city it was in?
I don't remember if she said specifically, but to my knowledge at that point, it was in Stanley, Wisconsin.
Okay. And did she say where she went when she got to Eau Claire from Stanley, where the first place that she said she went was?
I believe the first place that she said she went was Racy's.
And did she say if she met with anybody at Racy's?
Yes, she said she met with a friend named Max.
Did you ask her what Max's last name was?
Yes, she told me that she could not remember.
And did she say why she met with Max or what happened when she met with Max?
She said that she wanted to bring Max a painting.
Right. And did she say if she actually gave that painting to Max?
Yes, she did. She met with him at Racy's and gave it to him.
And did you say if whether or not she went anywhere with Max?
Yes, she said she drove Max to his residence.
And did she say what happened when she got to Max's residence?
I believe she said that they maybe exchanged some paintings.
Okay. And did you say if she went anywhere after Max's residence?
She said that she drove Max back to Racy's coffee shop.
Did she say where she went? Did she say if she went anywhere after she was at Racy's the second time?
Yes, she said that she left there and she went to Alex's residence.
And did you say why she wanted to go to Alex's restaurant or no, Alex's residence?
Yes, she had mentioned that she had like a heating pad that she wanted to give back to him. She also said that she had to she had a hat and maybe a cup that she left over at his house.
And did she say if she wanted to talk to Alex about anything?
Yes, I believe she said that she went over there to talk to him about an investigation.
And did she say what investigation that was?
She mentioned the name John Hansen.
And are you familiar if there was an investigation relating to John Hansen that was currently pending in the Eau Claire Police Department?
Yes.
All right. So did she say if she actually arrived at Alex's residence?
Yes.
All right. And did she say what happened when she got to Alex's residence?
Yes, she said she went inside and met with Alex.
Did she say if anybody else was there?
Yes, she mentioned that his roommate Dave was there.
Did the defendant tell you if she actually talked to Alex about any matters while she was there?
Yes, she did.
What matters did she say she talked to Alex about?
She talked to him about the Hansen investigation.
Did she tell you what Alex's response was when she talked about the Hansen investigation?
She said that he was upset and angry.
Did you ask her what she was upset about? In other words, was she upset about what the investigation was about, or was he upset about her?
He's both he and she, so it's unclear the question who he's asking about.
All right. I'm going to overrule. You can go ahead and answer if you can.
Okay, I believe he's asking if Alex was angry. Is that
Yep. She said Alex was angry.
correct?
All right. Did you ask her if Alex was angry at her or at John Hansen?
She said it was difficult to tell.
Right. Did she say that Alex said anything else about the situation though?
I believe she said that he made a comment. That he was concerned that John might try and hurt somebody else.
Did she make some comments about who was doing most of the talking during this discussion about the Hansen matter?
Yes, she said that she was doing most of the talking.
And did she say, that's fine. Did she say if anybody else showed up at the residence?
Yes, she said at one point Jason Mangle showed up.
And did she tell you what happened when Jason Mangle arrived at the residence?
He spoke with both her and Alex.
And did she tell you what they talked about, that being Alex, the defendant, and John Mangle?
I believe she said that they talked about the Hansen investigation.
The Hansen matter?
Yes.
All right. Did she say what happened after Mr. Bengal arrived at the residence?
Shortly after he arrived, a police officer arrived.
Did she say what happened after the police arrived at the residence?
She said the police officer checked on them to make sure that they were okay, and that Jason left.
And did she say if she and Alex stayed there or if they left as well?
She said that they left his residence.
Did she say who was driving and what vehicle they were driving in?
She said they left in her vehicle and that she drove.
She was driving?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ask her where they went?
Yes.
And what did she tell you?
She told me that they went to a park.
Did the defendant provide you with any further description of the park that would allow you to try and identify what park they went to?
Yes. She said she remembered a frog.
Right. Are you familiar with various parks that are located in the city of Eau Claire?
Yes, I am.
Is there a park in the city of Eau Claire that has a recognizable frog, or at least did as of March of 2018?
Yes, in Owen Park, there's a fairly sizable frog statue near the parking lot, near the entrance.
And did you ask her where in the park she was when she arrived there?
Yes, I asked her, but I think she had some difficulty remembering.
Did you ask her specifically, I think, is there a couple different ways that you can be facing when you're at that park?
Yes, I asked her if she remembered if she was facing towards the playground or if she was facing towards the river.
And what did she tell you?
I believe she said she was facing towards the playground.
Right. Did you ask her what happened when they were at the park?
Yes, she said they continued talking.
Did she say what they were talking about?
I believe she said that she couldn't remember, but they talked about her feelings.
Okay. And did she say what Alex's reaction was when they talked about her feelings?
She said that he was, again, upset.
Okay. And did she say if Alex was calling her by any particular names or using any terms to relate to the defendant?
Yes, she said that he kept calling her boy or little boy.
Right. And did you talk to her about any situations where between her and Alex in the past?
Yes, I did.
And what did she say as far as, did she tell you if there had been issues or had been some problems in the past?
Yes, she said that he treated her poorly.
Right. And did you ask her if Alex did the same types of things that caused her to believe he treated her poorly in the past on that day, that being March 22nd of 2018?
Yes, I did.
What did she say?
I believe she couldn't remember. She kept saying that it was dark and scary.
Did you ask her about the word boy that was cut into her left arm?
Yes, I can't remember if I specifically asked her or if that was a question that Deputy Shields asked her.
While you were present?
While I was present, yes.
Okay. Did you hear her answer, again, whether it was you or Deputy Shields, did you hear the answer that the defendant gave as to who cut the word boy into her arm?
Yes, I did.
And what did she say?
She said it was Alex.
And did you ask the defendant where Alex was now?
Yes, I did.
And what did she say?
She said that she could not remember.
Now, are you familiar with the location of where Owen Park is?
Yes, I am.
All right. And by the way, did you ask the defendant how she got from Owen Park to the Don Sipple residence where she was found on March 22nd?
If you're referring to the Sipple residence, I'm assuming that's in Menominee.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I did ask her.
And what did she say?
She said she could not remember.
At some point in time, did you continue to ask questions, and did she decline to answer further questions?
I did try to ask further questions. At some point towards the end of my first contact with her, she started showing signs that she was going to get sick. She picked up a vomit bag that was next to her bed in the ER.
And did she actually vomit into that bag?
I don't believe that she did. I believe she made some like dry heaving type noises.
Did you ask her about taking photographs?
I don't remember if I specifically asked her if I could take photographs at that point. I can't remember.
Okay. Would a review of your report refresh your recollection on whether or not you asked her to take photographs and if she had a response to that?
Yes.
After you were done with the interview with the defendant, did you talk to any other individuals at Eau Claire Mayo Hospital?
Yes, I did, by phone, outside of the hospital.
All right. And who did you talk to?
I talked to the defendant's father and mother.
Okay. And that would be Joe Shane Carlin and Rose Gundelson?
Yes.
All right. Now, you testified that you're familiar with the location where Owen Park is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right.
I'll be right back. Shmita, you're in charge.
Your Honor, I'm going to put up here a second. It's exhibit, marked exhibit 419A. I'm not going to be moving it, but I'm going to ask a few questions relating to it. Council's indicated he has no objection. I'm doing so. 419A. All right, can you see this okay, Officer Reeves? If not, if you need to move over maybe to the side, just take the mic with you and move to the side a little bit.
I can't see it.
Oh, sorry. Just so everybody can see it. Can you see it okay now? Get that?
There you go. Behind the witness, and we can all see it.
Sure, that's fine. Can do that.
Yeah, that's perfect.
What jury is you?
Yeah.
They can't see.
All right, now the witness is gonna have trouble seeing it. Maybe if you can step down, why don't you step around to the other side and bring the mic with you?
I think you can take
Can you see? Okay. Let's turn it a little bit. So everybody can see it. You guys still see it okay?
I can, I don't know if it's yours.
No, I don't know how to do it. How's that? Everybody,
No, I think it's.
you all see it? Can everybody in the jury see it? No. Can you all see it? Okay, great. So on exhibit 419A, can you show us where Owen Park is?
It would be right here.
And for the record, Your Honor, he's pointing to a location that's actually marked on there as Owen Park, and it is towards the bottom center of exhibit 419A. Now, are you familiar with a system known as Milestone in the city of Eau Claire?
Yes, I am.
Can you just briefly explain to us what Milestone is?
Milestone is the name of the public space cameras that are set up around Eau Claire.
And are some of those cameras located at intersections in the city of Eau Claire?
Yes, they are.
And were you familiar with the vehicle that the defendant was driving as of March 22nd of 2018?
Yes, as it was described to me, it was a silver later model Impala with some distinctive markings.
Right. And were you aware approximately what time the contact was with the defendant and Alex Woodworth at his residence?
I believe that the time frame was somewhere between 1 p.m. and 4:15 p.m.
Okay, so the contact at Alex's was around 1.
Correct.
Okay, and were you aware approximately when the defendant was showed up at the residence in the Menominee area?
I believe it was sometime around 4.
Okay.
p.m.
And with that information, first off, are you aware if there are any of those Milestone cameras which would show the entrance to Owen Park where that frog is?
Yes,
And which camera is that?
it would be a camera at Lake Street and First Avenue.
And did you then have a chance to review the video from that camera for the afternoon of March 22nd of 2018?
Yes,
Did you see that distinctive markinged Chevrolet Impala of the defendants enter Owen Park?
I did not.
If it had entered Owen Park from whatever direction it may have entered, would you have been able to see it on that camera?
Yes, I would have.
I have no further questions for Officer Reeve, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Nelson?
Officer Reeve, is it Reeve or Reeves?
Reeves.
Mr. Reeves, you've been an officer, you said, for 5 years?
That's correct. Yes.
So in March of 2018, you've been an officer for about 3.5 years.
Yes.
Can you just tell us a little bit about your training post-high school? I imagine you graduated from high school, right?
Yes.
And what did you do after that?
I went to college at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville
And how long did you go there?
for 4 years.
Get a degree?
I did. Yes.
And what was your degree in?
It was in criminal justice.
And after you got your degree in criminal justice, what did you do?
After I got my degree, I worked for the City of Eau Claire Police Department.
And that was 5 years ago now.
Yes,
So your entire career as a law enforcement officer has been with the city of Eau Claire,
yes, it is.
and it was immediately after college.
I believe there was maybe a 6-month period between college and when I got hired. Yes.
And so when you, so you're about 30?
Objection relevant.
I think it is.
Well, what is relevance? I mean, this question's fine. How much further are we going to go into this?
Maybe 2 more questions, but basically, I'll tie it up pretty quick.
Well, I think it's irrelevant. So I'm going to sustain the objection.
Do you know how much, if at all, older you are than Alexander Woodworth at the time, March 22nd, 2018?
Objection relevant.
Sustained.
You, in your training, you just had essentially the basic training to become a police officer, correct?
Correct.
You haven't had any specialized training, correct?
I guess that depends on how you define specialized training.
After you began working as an Eau Claire Police Department, have you had any special training?
Yes, beyond the scope of normal patrol. Yes.
What was that training in?
Firearms, further instruction on DAT, defense and arrest tactics.
And DAT, defense and arrest tactics, that's use of force, correct?
Correct.
That's something that you're trained in as a law enforcement officer, correct?
Correct.
When it's permissible to use force, correct?
Correct.
When, what factors you should consider as a trained police officer in deciding when to escalate or to de-escalate, correct?
Your Honor, I'd like to approach on this.
All right. Council approach. Okay, objection overruled.
You have, you'd mentioned the word or the acronym DAT, is that right?
Correct.
And that was for defense arrest tactics?
Correct.
And that the policies from the Eau Claire Police Department are that they adopt the Department of Justice's DAT. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And as part of that DAT training, again, as a trained police officer, they give you extensive training about when you can use force, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And the factors that you can consider
Hey, where's Kenny?
That's correct.
in assessing what you see with your eyes, right?
Yes.
What prior knowledge you may have of the person based upon the situation that you're in.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I think we're going a little too far now.
Well, overruled. Again, Mr. Nelson, you can just get to it.
Relevant, so I appreciate that. Some of the things that you need to assess are, again, what prior knowledge you may have of the person or the situation, place, or all of those matters, correct?
Correct.
And any of your other senses, what you see, what you hear, what you smell, probably not what you taste, but what you touch, right?
Correct.
Take all of those things into consideration, correct?
Yes.
And if you're assessing threats that are made to you, correct?
Myself or others.
Correct. And I imagine those are pretty stressful situations, right?
Yes.
Have you been in one of those? And I don't want to get into the detail. I'm just asking this question at home. Have you been in one of those situations where you've needed to pull your firearm under the DAT policies?
Objection relevant.
I don't know. I was looking to see how much longer it was, where we were at. That's all. Is it doing something? It doesn't sound like it's doing anything over here. Why? What's happening? I pushed pause. So what's up?
I don't know. I didn't see anything either, but I was looking at the chat. Hi, everyone.
Oh, my phone is hitting my stuff. Oh my God. My headphones are hitting the my phone and timing people out. Wow, this freaking thing is sensitive. I'm so sorry, you guys. Cripes. Hold on, let me make sure I didn't block anybody.
Oh, I see it now.
Yeah, stupid earbuds. It's not Shmita, it's me. It was an accident. My earbuds were on top of my phone and they were timing you guys out. And then I was swinging in my chair and it was knocking the earbuds. So I'm so sorry. I'll wait. Tell everybody. I have 300 seconds. What is that? Like 5 minutes? So ridiculous. I'm so sorry, you guys.
I think you got accused of that before.
Oh, I've done it before. I did it in Dorothy's chat at least 2 or 3 times. Yes, I'm guilty. I admit it. I forgot what I was gonna say. There was I wanted you guys to I'm so sorry, you guys. I wanted to tell you guys you got to pay particularly close attention. You're not blocked. I don't think I blocked anybody. Let me just scroll up and see what the heck I did.
Oh, you were deleting messages and
I
everything.
see it. I see that. I just want to make sure I didn't block anybody. Sorry, you guys. I am so sorry. Just says deleted. Timeout, timeout, timeout. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Well, you see, it's never a dull moment at the ward. I've tried to tell you, listen, I've been upfront and honest from day numero uno. I am the worst. Sometimes I'm not even the worst on purpose. I'm the worst accidentally. I'm so sorry, you guys. Oh my gosh. Well, technically, we could blame Shmita because Shmita was in charge. No, just kidding. It's not Shmita. I did it. Oh, I don't know if I have that one. Hold on. Let me find it. Let me wait for everybody to get back. Hold on. Let me go to my channel right quick. Let's see. Let's see.
Molson Man, wasn't it you that said you liked Survivor? I think it was.
This
If
is a-
so,
This
you
is a
need-
trap, Molson Man. I'm telling you right now because this is how it starts with Mo. First, it's going to be, oh, you got to watch this season of Survivor. Then it's going to be, oh, no. You've got to check out Big Brother. And then it's, oh, no, you need to check out Big Brother Canada. And then it's Big Brother Idaho. And then it's Big Brother Uganda. I mean, it's never ending. Just don't answer her.
Actually, it's Survivor Australia.
Well, I said Big Brother. Hold on a minute. I can't.
It's so good.
I don't want to play all. Oh, there we go.
You were a finalist for Survivor Africa?
All right, hold on. Let me see.
What were you doing in Africa?
All right, hold on. Let me stop sharing this.
Oh my gosh, Shmita.
What?
It starts March 2nd. She knows someone that's going on Big Brother Canada. I can't wait for Big Brother Canada. But anyway, all the Big Brother, the Survivor Australia ones are really good. You can watch them for free on SH Videos.
Oh, let me tell you what you can't watch that the internet lied about. You can't watch House of Gucci on Paramount Plus. The internet lied. So rude. All right, hold on. Forever. All right, talk. We're talking. Oh, here we go.
Wow, that's cool, Molson Man.
All right, here we
I'll
go.
get there.
I've watched Africa too.
Okay,
All
so
right.
here we go with Ivan. This is the media interview.
Oh, wait, is this it? Yikes. All right, here we go.
I was like, I hear Dr. B.
I don't think it's this one. Hold on.
Hey, my partner, he want to see the product. When he talking?
Maybe this one. Oh, everybody. Hi, Dr. B. What's up?
Hi.
What the? Where is the? I don't even remember which one it was. Not this one. Well, hello everybody. Where is it? Maybe it's under here. Something else. Hold on. Sorry, you guys. If I hadn't have timed everybody out, we wouldn't be having to do this.
Oh, I've just been talking and talking. Welcome back, Allie.
Oh, I can't. Did I play it on a roast? Like before the roast? Do you guys remember? Because I can't find it. Oh crap, I pushed the wrong freaking thing again.
Sam.
What? I can't. You have to tell me what people are saying. I'm trying to find this.
She said, why was everyone timed out?
Because my stupid earbuds were out of control.
I don't know what you're looking for.
I made a little video doing the roast of Stephen McDaniel, and I made music for it, but I don't remember if I looked in part 1 and it's not here. I can't.
Cement Shoes says it's in the second half of the roast. Might be beginning, but probably towards the end.
Oh, okay. Oh, speaking of Stephen McDaniel, I was thinking, since I got my new fancy chair and it leans back, that I would, take a picture of me all the way leaned back like that detective and use it, and use it in here. What is this doing? Oh my God. I could just sing you the song. It's taking so long. I can't find it. Oh, here it is. I found it. It's at the end. All right, hold on. All right, hold on. All right, here we go.
Vodka, it's the Mary Jane. That's why she's coughing too. So it's all good.
I know, AJ. He didn't. So rude, Stephen. I mean, come on. You gave us a little show out in front of the apartment. You couldn't give us just a little something? Come on.
Or at least he didn't even try sticking his finger in an electric socket.
He didn't even try. None then.
And
anyone that would want to hurt her. It was as nice as there is. Why would anyone do this?
Okay, don't worry.
I think I need to sit down. 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 This morning they knocked on my door. They were looking around trying to find anything. I could have done something. I could have done something. I could have done something. I could have done something.
All right, you guys. There you go. All right. Hold on. Okay, now back to where we were. All right. Sorry about that brief interruption. I don't know where that clip thing came from. I saw it today when I started the stream, or when I joined on YouTube. I don't know what it is or how to get rid of it because I don't like it. It's annoying. All right, here we go.
We can't see it.
I'm going to overrule that.
Sometimes yes.
All right. So that's all I want to ask you about that. Firearms, DAT, any other specific training that you had?
Are you talking before that time or after?
Between your start of your employment 5 years ago and March 23rd, 2018, those first 3.5 years of your career as a law enforcement officer with Eau Claire.
Objection, relevance.
There we
Abstain.
go.
Have you been in a stressful situation where you need to use some of your training like that?
Objection, relevance.
I'm not going to get into it. I'm just laying the foundation to ask the next question.
Well, I'm going to sustain the objection. I think I'm giving you
Oh
some
no, I
latitude here,
don't
but
care
you're
at
going
all.
too far.
I listen. Hold on a
Those
second.
stressful situations.
Look, I do crazy stuff on accident, and sometimes I do crazy stuff on purpose just to entertain myself. Tonight happened to be on an accident, and I'm just glad that everybody understands that I don't know how to act apparently, and that I be timing out folks for no reason. Just timing them out. Kept things interesting, right? All right, here we go. Oh, and then it took me forever and a day to find a video I made. My own channel.
Ask for split-second decisions. Is that right?
Objection, relevance.
I'm going to overrule that.
Sometimes yes.
All right. So that's all I want to ask you about that. Firearms, DAT, any other specific training that you've had?
Are you talking before that time or after?
Between your start of your employment 5 years ago and March 23rd, 2018, those first 3.5 years of your career as a law enforcement officer with Eau Claire.
Yes, it's possible.
But nothing that comes to mind right now, correct?
I would have to review my training file. Nothing that comes to mind right now specifically, no.
And so you haven't had any specific training on how to deal with trauma victims, agreed?
I believe there is a portion in the police academy that I went through that talks about traumatic experiences.
But again, my question, in your training as an Eau Claire police officer in the 3.5 years, you've had no special training about trauma, agreed? That was before that, just a general education. My question to you is, in your employment as an Eau Claire police officer, in the 3.5 years leading up to March 23rd, 2018, you had no specific training regarding how to deal with victims of trauma, agreed?
It's hard for me to answer that question.
As you sit here today, you have no memory of any specific training, correct?
Unless you refer to training that would have been during my field training process, then yes, I would have had some training from a field training officer.
So like in the field, some whatever the other police officers tell you, correct?
What they tell me and what I experience.
Sure. But I want to ask you about actual specialized training where you go to a class, you meet with instructors, they tell you how to deal with that. Sounds like you have not had that training. You agree?
If it was before March 22nd of 2018, I do not believe I had any specific training where I went to a class.
Okay. Before you went to arrive at the hospital, you got some background about the case, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And basically, you collected that from Dunn County Deputy Emmer Shields, is that right?
Yes.
You had learned that Ms. McCandless had met a male farmer at Mr. Sipple's house. Mr. Sipple, correct?
I believe that was his name. I can't remember if I was told his name that day.
The farmer was a man, agreed?
Yes.
And then she met with a man named, from the State Patrol, Mr. Knudsen, correct?
I don't know.
And a man named Emma Shields, correct?
Yes.
And then a man named Matt Feeney from the Dunn County Sheriff's Department.
I don't know.
A man named Greg Moan from the Dunn County Sheriff's Department.
I don't know.
2 men from the Menominee Fire Department and ambulance team.
Again, I don't know.
And then she was brought to the hospital to get care and treatment. Is that right?
Yes.
And when she was at the hospital in the emergency room to get care and treatment, you came and spoke with her, correct?
Yes.
And when you spoke with her, when she's in the middle of that care and treatment, that's the first time she's ever met you in her life. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And one of the first, this whole interaction is recorded. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
And so have you had a chance to review the transcript of that recording that we provided to the prosecution team?
Yes, I have.
And if your review of that, I want to ask you as we go through this then, okay? And if you need to be refreshed, we can certainly refresh you, right? But according to the recording, essentially, your first words out of your mouth to her were, no. At what point did you and Alex part ways? Did you walk out of the vehicle or did he drive away? Did he get out of the car? Do you remember? Those are the first words that you said to this young lady who's in the hospital for care and treatment, correct?
Without looking at the transcript, I would say that's probably correct.
Sure. You, prior to your saying those words, you were there when Officer Reeves had asked her some questions, correct? Shields, I apologize, you're Officer Reeves, I got mixed up. I'll start over. Prior to that, you were in the room when Officer Shields had been asking her questions for about 30 to 60 seconds. Is that right?
That's correct. I walked into the room after him. He had started asking her a few questions, and then I sat down next to her bedside and tried to assist.
And you were assisting law enforcement, right?
Yes.
You weren't there to assist the hospital.
I totally do. That's merch.
No.
And when you sat down next to her, you didn't tell her your name.
I don't believe I did.
You didn't say hello.
No, I don't think so.
There was a young lady in the hospital for care and treatment, and you didn't ask, how are you?
I want to say really quickly, thank you guys all for putting up with me and my reckless timing out and horrible headphones that do whatever they want, whenever they want. I can't even blame it on Alice. Alice is all the way on the other side of the bed. I can't even blame her, but thank you guys for understanding that I don't know how to behave. Sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I don't think I did.
The first question that you asked is essentially about the arm, correct?
I think I asked her about if she had driven her vehicle anywhere, if she could remember.
Actually, if I apologize, what you first asked, other than the question I said, is what happened to your knuckles? Is that right? And she said, I fell down. That was the beginning of your part of the conversation.
I think that was one of the first few questions that I asked, yes.
And then you asked, what had you been doing earlier in the day over at Alex's house? Is that right?
Something to that effect, yes.
And it's during that part of the interview in the beginning where she's crying as well, right?
Yes.
So when the state prosecution team was asking you questions about what happened, fair to say they didn't go in a chronological order about the order of the questions that you asked, did they?
No, not as the transcript shows. But, no.
And the transcript is, you've listened to the recording, right?
Yes.
And the recording accurately reflects what happened in that room, right?
Yes.
So let me just back up so we can take this in chronological order, and I'll try to go through it quickly. But when you walked into the room, Mr. Shields' first question to her was, do you think that Alex is the one that cut you?
It's possible. I believe at that point he had extensive contacts with her. I wasn't sure if he was just starting from a point where he last left off. I was uncertain about where he exactly was at that point in his contact.
You understand my question is about the time when you and Mr. Shields walked into the room together to sit down and ask Ms. McCandless questions, right?
Yes.
So we understand that Mr. Shields may have done other things before, but I'm asking you questions about the time frame when you entered with Mr. Shields. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
You two entered together, right?
Yes.
You were there when the first question that he asked to her in your presence was, do you think that Alex is the one that cut you, right?
Yes.
And then Mr. Shields continues to ask her some questions about Alex and where he grabbed her and cut her. Is that right?
Yes.
Then he asked her where that was, and she says, no, it wasn't at his house. Is that right?
Yes.
He asks, it wasn't at his house, question mark. She says, no, I don't know. It gets really dark and scary. It just hurts.
Yes.
And then Mr. Shields asks her if she remembers any sounds or anything else to try to trigger her memory, is what he says, right?
Yes.
And she doesn't respond. Agreed?
I believe she just shook her head. I don't think she verbally responded.
And then Mr. Shields said, no, question mark, okay. To which Ms. McCandless responded, it's just dark. Is that right?
Yes.
While she's crying.
Yes.
And then Mr. Shields asks her in particular about the knife, whether it was a razor or a folding knife, and Ms. McCandless describes a folding one that her dad always says to have in her car just in case someone hurts her, right?
Yes.
And during that portion of her statements, she's again crying.
Yes.
Mr. Shields asks if she was cut on the arm or on the leg as well, and she does not respond. Agreed?
Yes.
Mr. Shields then asks, did he cut you down there? And there's no response, and Mr. Shields says, okay, what happened after he cut you?
Yes.
And then Ms. McCandless says, it just got dark and scary, right?
Yes.
And then I believe actually that's where you then step in and ask about, did you drive your vehicle anywhere?
Yes.
And then it's after that where you said, at what point did you and Alex part ways? You asked him multiple questions. What time did you part ways? Did you walk out of the vehicle? Did he drive away? Did he get out? Do you remember? Right?
Yes.
And she says, while crying, I don't remember. It hurts so much.
Yes.
And then you begin asking her about her knuckles, where she tells you she fell down, which we went through before. Agreed?
Yes.
And then you begin to go through the chronology of the day, where she talks about waking up and showering, being at her dad's house. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then she goes through the chronology that I believe you went through on direct about Racy's, Max, back to Racy's. Is that right?
Yes.
And then from there, it's on to Alex's to give him the heating pad and have contact with Alex. Is that right?
Yes.
And she tells you she had contact with Alex and his roommate, right?
Yes.
And she asks, what does Dave look like? And she says, I don't really know. He's just got tattoos, right?
Yes.
Asks if Dave stays there. And she says, yeah. Agreed.
Yes.
And then she again talks about being there, talking to Alex about John Hanson and Ezra McCandless's feelings about that, right?
Correct.
As well as her feelings about Alex, right?
Yes.
And then she tells you about Alex being upset. Is that right?
Yes.
Angry.
Yes.
And then that Jason interrupted that. Is that right?
Yes.
And then that eventually Jason leaves and Ezra and Alex leave in her car with her driving, right?
Yes.
And then you ask what happens from there, and she says, I just remember a frog. Is that right?
Yes.
At that point, she told you several times, it's just dark and it's scary, correct?
That's correct.
She told you, I don't remember, correct?
Yes.
She told you, it hurts so much.
Yes.
She's crying,
Yes.
sobbing.
Yes.
At that point, did you ever reach out and physically or verbally to tell her, you don't have to talk about this right now? Did you ever tell her that?
I did not know.
Did you ever tell her, we want to make sure that you're safe and you're protected and we can come back and talk to you at another time?
Did not tell her that directly, no.
You just kept asking her questions.
Yes.
And that's when she talks to you again about playground, and you keep asking her follow-up questions about that. Is that right?
Yes.
And then at some point you say, did you just continue your conversation for where you left off at the house? And Ms. McCandless tells you, we were talking about my feelings and stuff.
Yes.
And then after she says, we were sitting there talking about the feelings, you turn and say, you guys are sitting there talking at the park. At what point did he cut your arm? You went back to the arm. Is that right?
Yes.
And she didn't respond to that, did she? There's no verbal response on the recording. Agreed?
Agreed, yes.
And you followed up with that. You don't remember what point. You asked that question, and again, she did not verbally respond. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And then you asked, what was he saying? And she said, I don't know.
That's correct.
Again, you didn't pause to let her know that she could have some time to gather her thoughts.
No.
Do you at that point know if she received any care at the hospital?
I don't know.
If she'd received any treatment at all at the hospital?
I did not know.
If she'd had any ability to have contact with her mother
I don't know.
or her family
I don't know.
or anybody that she knows and loves?
I don't know.
You just kept asking questions.
Yes.
And at some point she told you, he just kept on saying, I was a boy. That's what she told you, right?
Yes.
And then you ask why, and she says, because when me and Alex used to be involved, he used to call me a little boy. She told you that, right?
Yes.
And that's when you asked, why does he call you that? And she didn't respond.
That's correct.
You asked, does he treat you poorly when you guys are together? And she told you, sometimes.
Yes.
You asked if he threatens or calls her other names, and again, she didn't respond. At least not verbally, correct?
That's correct.
Because the next words out of your mouth were, he does. That's what you say, correct?
That's correct.
And you say that because while she didn't give you a verbal response, she gave you a nonverbal response indicating, yes, sometimes he threatens me.
That's correct.
So she wasn't perhaps able to talk about it, but she was able to communicate to you what had happened in the past.
Yes.
You said, what other things does he say? You asked her that, correct?
Yes.
And it's unclear from the recording because she's crying, but at some point you hear her say, when I don't want to do stuff.
Yes.
And you ask, what kind of stuff are you talking about? Again, Ms. McCandless doesn't give you a verbal response at that point, correct?
I believe her response was, it's sensitive or something along those lines.
Okay. And whether that was physical or emotional, you didn't know.
No.
It could have been both.
Yes.
And then you follow up by saying, are you talking about like sexual things? And then you said, you asked that question, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And then you must not have got a response because the next thing you say is, okay.
Yes.
Did she again communicate to you non-verbally with a nod of her head in agreement that it was about sexual things?
I believe she did, yes.
And then she actually was able to speak. And what she told you with her words that she was able to say to you was, he makes me lay down and do stuff.
I believe that's what she said, yes.
And again, you asked, does he like physically grab you, make you lay down and do things? And again, there's no audible response from the woman in the hospital that's sitting next to you, right?
Yes.
But your next words were, he does. Okay? Those are the next words that you said to him. Her. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
And the reason that you said those words is because she, once again, while she wasn't able to speak, she was able to communicate with you non-verbally in agreement to your question, does he physically grab you and make you lay down and do stuff?
Yes.
And then you ask, did he do that today? Correct?
Yes, I did.
And she says, I don't remember much. It was just dark and it was scary. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you again go back and ask her, was it at the house or were we at the park? And she says, I don't know.
Yes.
She's crying.
Yes.
Fair to say, if we listen to the recording, you'd hear her sobbing.
You could hear her cry, yes.
Cry loudly. Correct?
I don't know that I would say it was loudly, but she was crying.
Okay. And again, at that point, after she says, I don't know, when she's crying and she's told you that it's dark and scary, do you tell her, we can come back at another time?
At that point, no.
Did you tell her, look, I want to make sure that you get the care and the treatment that you need, and we'll come back and talk to you a different time?
At that point, no.
You just kept asking her questions, right?
Yes.
And it's at that point where she says to you repeatedly, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know.
Well, I guess I'm going to object, Your Honor. It's in response to a question, and
Again, that's not a legal objection. I'm asking the witness a question. He gets
and she's asking a question
So
that
you can't have more than one person talking at a time. So
the transcript is, I'm asking him a question. Is there a legal objection to the question?
the question is misleading.
That's not.
well, I don't have a transcript, so I have no idea. But go ahead. I'm just going to overrule. Go ahead and ask your question, then you can handle that.
Let's just make clear, right?
Redirect.
Again, I go on chronologically through the recording pretty accurately, right?
Yes.
And this is after the point where she had just described to you it was dark and scary. Then you asked her about whether it was back of the house or the park, and she says, I don't know. I'm just putting you into context. Are you there?
Yes.
And then you ask, do you know where Alex is now? You asked her that, right?
Yes.
And that's when it's obvious that she's crying.
Yes, it is.
Her response is no. I don't know, don't know, I don't know, I don't know.
Yes.
And then you keep asking her questions. You ask, did he mention to you what he was going to do or where he was going to go the rest of the day? You ask that. Is that right?
That's correct.
And she says again, no, no, I don't know, I don't know. Is that right?
Yes.
And you keep asking her questions and you say, did you drop him back off at home? And she doesn't respond. Agreed?
Agreed.
She's crying.
Yes.
In fact, at some point, she grabs the blanket and pulls it up over her head, does she not? Or at least up over her face.
She had the blanket up to her face during the entire contact.
Fair to say she didn't look comfortable at all.
No.
You agree with me? You agree she did not look comfortable? She was crying, she had a blanket up against her face.
I would agree she didn't look like she was comfortable, no.
But you kept asking questions.
Yes, I did.
You were trying to get information, right?
Yes.
But you didn't necessarily tell her that, other than you just kept asking her questions, right?
That's correct, yes.
You didn't tell her that she could decline to answer.
No.
You didn't read her rights.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained.
You gave her no information or knowledge about what options a 20-year-old woman in the hospital seeking care and treatment could do other than to sit there and answer your questions, right?
That's accurate, yes.
And then at some point, she grabbed a vomit bag, is that right?
Yes.
And began dry heaving into that bag.
Yes.
And it's at that point that you left.
I believe a nurse had stepped in. I believe it was the same nurse was preparing to start her examination.
The female walked in, is that right?
Yes.
A woman.
Yes.
And she came by Ezra's side.
She went to the monitor that was next to her bed, yes.
And she was there to provide care to Miss McCandless, is that right?
I believe she was there to conduct the SANE exam.
You weren't there for that same exam, were you?
I was outside of the hospital.
This was a trained nurse who did that, right?
Yes.
And that nurse then, you don't know if she did or didn't give her care, do you?
I don't know.
You don't know if she did or didn't give her treatment.
I don't know.
But when that nurse walked in, you then left.
Yes.
And at that point, Ms. McCandless hadn't showered, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
Do you know, did she appear as if she had showered? I'm going to withdraw the question and start over.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Thank you. I'd appreciate it if you'd stop and there's an objection instead of just plowing on. So
understand.
go ahead.
It did not appear as if she had showered. Agreed?
Agreed.
And she hadn't yet received any treatment as far as you know, right?
As far as I know, no.
And then the nurse walked in, right?
That's correct, yes.
And then you left.
Objection asked and answered at least three.
Sustained, asked and answered. I heard it at least 3 times.
That's fine. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. I want to start out, Officer Reeves. Can you tell the jury, how you were asking questions? I mean, what kind of demeanor you were having as you were asking her questions?
Not unsimilar to how I'm sitting now. I was sitting on a bench next to her bedside, talking in the same tone of voice that I'm using now.
Ever raise your voice, ever act like you were upset or perturbed with her answers?
No.
What was the reason why you were interviewing her at that time?
At that time, based on the information that I had, I believe that I was interviewing a victim.
And are you trying to get information so you can work on a case to help her?
Yes, seeing as the first part of it was to try and locate the male subject that was allegedly involved.
Right. And at that point in time, did you believe the male subject to be a victim or potentially a perpetrator?
Potentially a perpetrator.
Right. And so your purpose in talking to her was what?
I was trying to gather information potentially about his whereabouts to try and prevent him from having any further contact with her, so that law enforcement could interview him, so that we could prevent him from having any further contact with her.
All right. Since we've heard a lot about this, I'm going to have this marked as an exhibit.
Objection, can we approach?
Officer Reeves, you had a chance, I think you said on cross-examination, to read over a rough transcript of the your interview with the defendant, correct?
Correct.
Right. Did you also have a chance to yesterday to listen to the actual recording of it as well?
I did, yes.
All right. And so I'm going to ask you some questions about what you recall from your reading it and from reviewing the transcript. You were asked about a question about if there was something that could trigger her memory or where she was at when this took place. And you were asked if she had an audible response, and she didn't, correct?
Correct.
All right. Did she have a nonverbal response to that?
I believe she did, yes.
And what was that nonverbal response?
I believe it was a nod.
A yes or a no gesture?
I believe it was a yes.
Okay. If the next line, or if the next statement, do you recall if the next statement was something like no, okay? What would that refresh your memory as to whether it would have been a yes or a no?
Objection, didn't say his memory needed to be refreshed. He answered the question, yes.
All right, never mind. That's fine. We'll leave it at that. You asked, the question was asked before about whether or not, and it was asked by Deputy Shields, whether or not the defendant, or whether or not Alex cut her on her arm or on her leg as well. And again, you were asked if there was an audible response. There wasn't one. Do you recall if she gave a nonverbal response to that one?
I believe her nonverbal response was also a nod. Yes.
A nod, yes. Okay. Now, when you were asking questions about what she did earlier in the day, that is before she met or before she left from her from Alex's residence after the police had come, did she have any problems remembering what those events were?
Are you referring to the events before she left her father's residence?
No, after she left her father's residence and until she got to, or until she left Alex's residence after law enforcement, the Eau Claire police had been there.
She seemed to be able to remember those things fine.
So she was able to describe all those events to you with no problems?
Yes.
And during the course of those events, did she ever tell you that while she was at Alex's residence, that they discussed the relationship that they had had?
I don't believe she did, no.
Now, were you aware or did you understand that there was, or that Deputy Shields had previously talked to the defendant about the events of March 22nd?
Yes, I was aware that he had talked to her prior to my arrival.
All right. And while you were talking to the defendant, along with Deputy Shields, did the defendant ever say anything like, hey, I really can't talk to you now, or I don't feel comfortable talking to you?
I don't believe she did, no.
Right. Did she ever do anything non-verbally to indicate that she did not want to talk to you anymore?
Not to my memory, no.
There had been some questions about having this blanket up by her face. Did she ever put it over her face in an attempt to, to hide from you or do something like that?
No.
Did she move the blanket from where it was during the course of the interview, or did it pretty much stay in the same location the whole time?
It stayed in the same location the whole time.
Prior to or during the course of your interview with the defendant, did anyone from the hospital indicate that there was an issue with you being able to talk to her?
No.
They ever tell you, no, don't talk to the defendant, she's not in any shape to do that?
No.
There were some questions about, actually, right at the start of the interview, did Deputy Shields say something to the effect or something similar to, I'm going to ask you some questions, is that okay?
Yes, he did.
And what was the defendant's response to that?
I believe it was another nonverbal nod, yes.
And at any point in time during the questioning, did she change that and say, no, I don't want to answer any more questions?
No, I don't believe so.
And there were some questions about, that were asked about, whether Alex was upset when, or angry when the subject of the John Hanson matter came up. Did she say anything specific about what Alex said in response to her bringing up the John Hanson matter?
She said that his response was he was concerned that he might try to hurt somebody else.
I'm sorry?
He was concerned that John might try to hurt somebody else, or who will he hurt next? Something
Alex was concerned about that?
Yes.
All right. Did she tell you what John Hanson did to her that was the subject of that investigation?
She did not tell me specifically what he did, no.
When you asked about the investigation that it was, and she told you that it was something about John, did you ask her?
Objection leading. He answered, she did not tell me specifically, no, he's not leading.
I'm going to ask if I can finish my question, Your Honor.
Why don't you finish the question?
Yes. Did you ask her who's John?
I'm sorry, I can't remember.
All right. Would reviewing this transcript refresh your memory as to that?
Is it transcript of my contact with her?
Yes.
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Page 18, counsel.
Okay.
Does that refresh your memory, Officer Reeves?
Yes, it does.
Did you ask her who's John?
Yes.
And what was her response?
She said John was the one who raped me.
While you were in the room, actually, by the way, when you first entered the defendant's room, was there anybody else in the room when you got in there besides the defendant?
Before I entered, I know Deputy Shields walked in before I did. I know that she was seen very briefly by the same nurse. She made a comment to me, but otherwise, I don't believe there was anyone else in the room with
What?
her.
Okay, so Deputy Shields went in first.
Yes.
Okay. Did anybody leave the room before you entered the room after Deputy Shields entered?
No, I don't believe so.
And when you went in there, who was in the room?
Ezra, Deputy Shields, and myself.
Okay. At the conclusion of the interview, do you recall what you said to the defendant?
Very last thing I said, I do not remember.
All right. Do you recall if it could have been something similar to, or can you tell me whether or not it was something similar to, I'll let you take care of your business now?
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Can you recross, Mr. Nelson?
Briefly. There's an audio recording of this, correct?
Correct.
It's not there's a squad cam, correct?
Correct.
So there's a video and an audio portion of the recording, correct?
Correct.
But the video portion is just your car parked in the parking lot outside of the hospital, right?
Correct.
Ezra's not recorded on the video, agreed?
Agreed.
You're not recorded on the video portion, agreed?
Agreed.
So the interaction that we've just been talking about, there's no visual way to go back and look at it, right?
That's correct.
But we can listen to it, right?
Yes.
The audio is captured, correct?
Yes.
And that's on a recording.
Yes.
To hear all of this stuff that we've just been talking about in court, right?
Yes.
And you had the opportunity to listen to that, to hear her, how exactly she sounded, and how exactly you sounded. All of those sounds are on a recording that you got to hear yesterday.
Yes.
And the beginning of this interaction with Ms. McCandless on that night, the first words out of Deputy Shields' words are, "I heard you talking to the nurse," right?
Yes.
So while the questions that were asked of you by the Mr. Dufour were whether anybody left when Mr. Shields walked in, what he did ask you is, did anybody leave just before Mr. Shields walked in? The nurse left just before Mr. Shields walked in, right?
I believe so, yes.
The nurse was there to provide care, correct?
I would assume yes.
And the door was open and you guys could hear what was going on and being interacted about.
No, the door was closed.
So you could hear what was going on, whether the door was open or closed, right?
In the room while she was there with the nurse?
Yeah. Well, Mr. Shields says, "I heard you talking to the nurse." He was truthful when he told her that, right?
I think he was more, I heard you were talking to the nurse, not I heard you talking to the nurse. I guess I can't say what he said, I suppose.
You may not have been able to hear the actual words, but you could tell that there was a conversation in there between the two people that were in there, right?
Yes, I was talking to Deputy Shields outside of the room, so I wasn't paying as much attention to exactly what was going on inside that room.
You were waiting for the nurse to finish up.
Yes.
And as soon as the nurse finished up and walked out, you and or Deputy Shields and then you followed walked in. Is that right?
Yes.
So she wasn't alone at all, was she?
No.
And then after he says, "I heard you talking about the nurse," he asks about the cut. Do you think that Alex is the one that cut you? Is that right?
Yes.
And then there's no response. And then Mr. Shields says this series of questions. "Okay, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, okay? So just so you know, was it in your vehicle? Is that where this happened?" Those are the words that Mr. Shields said to her. Is that right?
That's correct.
Whether there was any pause in his statement telling her that he was going to ask her any questions, you don't have a memory of right now, correct?
It was a very brief pause.
Of a police officer making a statement to her about he's going to ask her some questions, right?
Yes.
And when you walked in, you'd seen her curled up on the bed, is that right?
Objection beyond the scope of my recollection.
Sustained, and I heard you asking about this already several times.
At some point, she's sitting up, rocking back and forth, is that right?
Objection beyond the scope of my recollection.
Sustained.
You were asked about your purpose in being there to talk to her. Do you remember that? One of the questions that the state asked you was your purpose was to go there to help her to get information to protect her from Alex or to see what Alex was doing, or is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And that was your purpose, right?
To gather information, yes.
And that's the purpose that you had in your head, correct?
Yes.
But you never communicated that to Ms. McCandless, did you?
I did not know.
So you had no way of knowing, whether she knew that was your purpose or why you were there or why you were asking questions, right?
I had no way of knowing that.
Most of the time when you want somebody to know what your purpose is, you tell them, right?
That's correct, yes.
And so while you may have had a purpose and may have been well-intentioned, you didn't communicate that to Ms. McCandless, did you?
I guess I didn't say it specifically to her, no.
And at the end, you finished up by saying, I'll let you take care of your business. Is that right?
Yes, I
Because
was.
you knew there was business that this young lady needed to take care of in the hospital, right?
At that point, I was referring to both her and the nurse. I can't remember exactly if I was saying, I'll let you take care of your business to Ezra, or if it was to the nurse that was now standing next to her
If it was
doing her thing.
to the nurse standing there, it was for the nurse to take care of her business, to provide Ms. McCandless the care and treatment that she was in the hospital to receive.
Yes.
That's all.
All right, hang on just a sec. Wow. Okay. So let's get into it. I'm going to say this. It's probably not going to be a popular opinion, but this is just the way I see it. The defense broke that detective.
I agree.
And the reason he broke the detective is because his defense for Ezra is that they were looking at this all wrong from the very beginning. And had they treated her like a victim, then she may have been more forthcoming, and this whole thing would never have resulted in a trial to begin with. And that's his defense. And he was exceedingly effective at it.
I agree.
We're supposed to be not agreeing. What I just said, Mo, I said it's not going to be a popular opinion. Here you come. I agree.
Well, I do agree.
And I think that, well, here's so when the state was questioning him, what they were trying, and they did, but the defense undercut it completely. What they were trying to establish with him is that Ezra was evasive and flat out lied during the interview. And she did. She said she said he was at one place, or they had been at one place when that's not even where he was. And, you know, I doubt that he would have survived, right, with those injuries. Okay. But he was out there for almost 24 hours before they found him. And that is going to be an incredible issue for the jury to have to get past, because those are the facts, that she actually made no attempt to actually get him in trouble from the beginning. However, on the flip side of that,
she also took his phone.
Well, then what phone did they find in the water?
She took his phone, and I can't remember if she dropped the knife in a ditch or his phone in the ditch.
Both.
Huh?
Both. She took the phone. The phone was found in the water. And so was the knife. Like, they were near each other, not far. They found it with the drone. That's the next person who's going to testify. They had to take apart, because it wasn't her phone. They found the LG in water. They had to take it apart in order to get the memory chip out of it so that they could get the data, get all the stuff off of it.
Right.
Right. So
no, I mean, she took his phone, so if he couldn't even call for help.
Right. But she didn't even say what had happened out there.
Right.
Now, I am not a psychologist. I do not, that's out of my depths, and I'm not even going to try. However, I think that one thing that we have to keep in mind is these detectives are not only testifying about what occurred on the specific day that they're being asked about, or days. They're also, but they were investigating this case in some capacity or another at different points. Okay. And they are testifying with hindsight, and that's the truth. That's one point to remember. The other point to remember is that after they would have talked to Ezra, they would have then talked to staff, the hospital staff. They would have asked the nurse who gave her the SANE exam. They would have consulted with the doctors and the nurses about what their assessment and diagnosis was. And I have a feeling that once they did speak with the nurses and the doctors who examined her, they felt like something was not right. Something about her story was not right. And keep in mind, yes, at the time, she is a victim. In that moment when he was initially, hey, Kaz, how's your puppers? At that moment, she was a victim. But they also, at that moment, had an assailant that they had to locate to keep the public safe. And the only person who knew what happened out there at that time was Ezra. And they needed her help so they could apprehend him. Yeah, I don't know how they got there, Allie, those scissors. It's to clip. You can take a clip of my live and share it out. I didn't ask for it, and I don't even know how to take it off. I think it has something to do with YouTube Premium. I don't know, but I don't like it. I hope they clip the part where I timed everybody out, though. That would be funny to be shared. So that's what the detective is testifying to in the beginning. And that's what that horrible diagram rated you for unhelpful, which is not actually a word, but you know what I mean. I couldn't tell what they were pointing at. To be honest with you, it was too far away. And so I feel like the defense won this witness, because what they really got the jury to see and admit is that you for useless. There you go. Cement shoes, even better. What they like, if we'd all been on the jury, right? The only person who said anything about her being a victim, why and how the cop was coming, or the detective was coming off, was Nonstop Mom. She said something to the effect of, he's coming across as an uncaring, insensitive a-hole. And that's what the defense, their whole line of questioning was to do. That's what they wanted to do. So they were successful, because remember, the defense only has to get the one juror, and Nonstop Mom today was that juror. And I have to say, they did make it seem like that's what he was doing, as if, not that it was intentional, not that he came in there with an attitude, but the fact of the matter is, which this is why he went to his training and his education, is that he was inexperienced. And in that capacity, he probably shouldn't have been the one asking all of the questions or doing all of the things. And I can tell you at the very end there, when they were talking, and he said, Nelson, I think his last name is Nelson, was asking Reeves, the detective, you said, let you take care of your business. That is a very typical male cop. Not even doctors have said it. When that's an uncomfortable situation for everyone. It was uncomfortable for Ezra. It was uncomfortable for the detectives. And that shows his inexperience right there. It wasn't intentional. He wasn't doing it to be insensitive. He wasn't doing it to be a jerk. He was just inexperienced. And they did. And Nonstop Mom. Oh yeah, that's ageism. It's not, I mean, there isn't a whole lot of you. All right. I don't really actually know how old that detective is, because they tried to get into it, but they were stopped. At the end of the day, he has a lack of experience, and that is why he was going into his training, asking if he had had training dealing with trauma victims in order to recognize and ask questions in such a way that they don't re-traumatize the victim, and that the line of questioning is actually effective. Because what they really wanted to know at the end of the day was where Alex was, so that they could attempt to apprehend him.
Right. I just think it's odd he didn't say, "How are you?" or "Hi," even.
Well, this is what I have. Are they going to play the audio?
Yes.
Okay.
I
I'll
don't
wait.
think it's not with him, but
Well,
with the other officer that
okay.
questioned her.
I think I'm curious about how that went, because I'm wondering if he didn't speak first because the other officer spoke first.
That's what I was thinking too. But I wonder why they didn't play his audio.
What do you mean?
Like what they discussed today. I wonder why they didn't play it with him. They obviously have it.
Wait a minute. There were two detectives in there at the same time asking questions, and they weren't wearing body cams.
I think the other officer, I'm not for sure, but I think the other officer that they play is after they figure out something's not right.
Right, but what I'm saying to you, babe, is that it was one recording device, so both voices would be on there. And the only reason I know that is because when they were talking about the transcript, they're referring to both officers speaking. So both of them were recorded. Does that make sense? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
I don't think they play the recording with this guy.
No, they don't, because he's done. Okay. So
there's another guy that I think he comes later and asks her more questions after, like what you said, after they talk to hospital staff. And they play his recording.
Well, then there's two recordings.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So I think. Okay. That's the only thing that could make sense.
Because there's only one voice on the other recording.
Well, then that's the only thing that would make sense. There would be two recordings, because they were just going over the transcript of the audio between the two detectives and Ezra. And they're reading it back, and they're talking about Reeves, and then the other detective is named. So I think that I think this is going to be a problem for the prosecution. So I'm curious as to what else they have that ends up getting her convicted, because I have to agree with Nonstop Mom here. They didn't approach her in the way that, and I'm actually surprised that they had male detectives in there at all. Why they couldn't call a female, because usually they do in a situation like this, where there is a suspected SA, not just because she's a woman, but under these exact circumstances.
I agree. I agreed with Nonstop Mom when she said that too. I felt it was cold.
Vincent, I don't know if they were cold. See, I have to hear it in order for me to say whether they were intentionally cold.
Right. I mean, the transcript came across as cold. That's why I would have liked to have heard it. I wonder why they didn't play it.
Because they probably agreed that what was said was said. and I don't see the benefit. See, the state is going for straight, not emotional. They're not, the way they're playing it is not, they're not emotionally appealing to the jury. They're going by straight facts. And what they established in the beginning of the testimony was that she was intentionally evasive and she lied. She sent them looking for him in one place where they had not even been that day. And that's going to come out. Maybe maybe tomorrow we'll play the end of the drone footage, because they play a video from the drone and then they take all of the, they call it the wise or the wide or whatever, their city system of cameras. And they follow Ezra, her vehicle, from morning until the afternoon, till the cameras lose sight of her. And she never went to that park that she kept saying she went to. So yeah, babe. Yeah, I think we'll do that tomorrow night. We will definitely watch before we get to the doctor's testimony. We'll watch the video of where Ezra traveled that day, because that's important. And I think that that's where the state is going. They're not trying to appeal to the jury's emotions as much as the defense is. The defense is going for the emotional aspect of it. She was a victim. She had just been in this horrific fight for her life. She had the word boy carved into her arm. And I think the reason they had a problem with the word boy, let me see if I can find it. I know I put it in here. Hold on a second. Okay. So you see that this is the inside of Ezra's arm. You can tell because this is where her blood was drawn. And you see how the word is scratched, B-O-Y? That would mean that he had her arm in such a position that he was on the inside of her arm. Do you see what I'm saying? I think what they would have expected to see is it to be the other way around. For it to start with B-O-Y, where the Y and the B are in different positions.
Right.
And I think that's the problem. I think when they saw that, I think they knew right then that something was not quite right. That is the worst penmanship ever. Coolest reviews. Yes, it's doable. It is doable, but think about it. In order for him to do that, he would have to be sort of sitting in such a way where you got to be able to hold the arm and carve the arm. That way it's kind of awkward to do it from the inside like that. It is doable. It's not impossible, but is it probable? Probably not. Especially when you consider that most of this issue, this fighting and whatnot, took place inside the car. So picture that is her left arm. So it would have been on the opposite side of him. Meaning if she were in the driver's seat and he was in the passenger seat, her arm that was carved would have been on against the driver's side door.
Well, she admits that she did it herself.
I know, but how long after? That's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
Exactly. That's my point, is that initially she said it was him. And I think that they were starting to put stuff together by this point. She said, Max, that Alex kept referring to her that day as little boy. So, I don't know. It's an awkward position for it to have been in. And I think that that is one of the first things that are visible to anybody who saw her, those detectives included, that was a head scratcher. And then I think when they talked to the nurse and the doctor, and they said, listen, it looks like she, on the surface, initially, it looks like she was in the fight for her life. She's come in here all cut up, but all these cuts are extremely superficial, because the nurse testified they didn't even have to bandage them and they didn't need stitches. She didn't even get a Band-Aid.
Right. I think she also probably had discussed with Alex that she had struggled with her sexuality in high school, but I don't know if he called her little boy or not. I mean, we'll never know. But
Yeah, but her being called a boy is not sexuality. That's gender. That's different. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I guess she's struggled with her gender. I can't remember how she explains it, but you'll hear it.
Well, yeah. But I'm just saying, but this is my point. At this point, we don't know any of that. And neither do the detectives. Because she's not telling him anything. And that's part of the issue. Not that she should have to tell. I think what they should have done, this is just my opinion, but I think that regardless of guilt, innocence, victim, or perpetrator, what should have happened is when they initially questioned her and she was hesitant and she didn't want to go into it, yada, 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 they should have called a female detective in. They should have stopped right then. And they should have asked for a female to come in and talk to her. And that might have, maybe they would have been more successful. Maybe they would have found Alex sooner. I don't know. But we wouldn't be sitting through what happened today, during that testimony. That's for sure. Well, I think, Max, that one of his friends testified that he told her that he was in a relationship with a boy. And that I believe Ezra was that boy. So
Did they ever say if they thought he was still alive when she left him?
no, nobody's testified that.
Okay, I don't know if it was said or not. That's asking. I didn't know.
Not up to this
It
point.
had been said. Okay.
Not up to this point.
I don't know if it's ever said. That's why I was asking.
I don't think, I think the only person who may have been able to testify to that would have been the medical examiner.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
And I don't, she said that, I'm trying to think which injury it was specifically that was asked about. I think it's the injury to the neck, about how long he may have lived after that injury was sustained. Because some of the injuries were at the beginning of what happened, and then and then some of them were going towards the end as he was in the death process, if you will.
Right. Because it seems like they moved all around that little area.
Well,
like it all didn't happen in the car. It seemed like with the blood on the ground. And
I think he tried to get away, and I think she chased him.
Yeah, that would.
And I don't think that I think that,
or he was chasing her.
Could have been. Although I kind of doubt it.
Well, me too, but I'm trying to be on
Well-
the jury still.
I mean, I'm basing what I'm saying right now on the medical examiner's testimony. And I highly doubt there was chasing on his
I
part.
just
I
can't
think
figure out how their shoes ended off.
we talked about this, Mo.
I know, but they were way far away. They weren't like in the car. They were out in the ground.
Yeah, because Ezra probably put them out there, honey, to make it. She clearly staged the scene somewhat.
Oh, you think she did?
Yes. If she chunked the knife and the phone, you don't think it would be? You think it'd be too much for her to chunk some shoes?
No.
No.
But I never even thought of that though.
Yeah, she did what she thought she could do to make it look like an ambush, but not by her.
Fair point.
Exactly, Heather, whatever. All of her injuries were superficial. And if you are trying to hurt somebody, even if you're not trying to unalive them, but you're trying to scare them, threaten them, intimidate them, because from what her story is, that's exactly what he did. Those cuts are not going, the cuts that she sustained are superficial.
Right.
And hesitant.
You're not going to cut yourself. It's hard to cut yourself the way somebody else who's mad would cut you.
Correct.
I mean, she was supposedly a cutter, but still, you can't rage
that's
yourself.
A different kind of cutting. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I guess you can rage on yourself, but it's a lot harder to rage on yourself the way somebody else would.
Correct.
And I agree, her injuries do not come across as rage. They come across as self-inflicted.
Mm-hmm. But I will say this. I would be more interested in more in-depth testimony relative to the injuries that she sustained and maybe the specific depths of them, because I will say this: in the case against Darlie Routier, the state said that every single injury that Darlie Routier suffered was self-inflicted and it was superficial. And yet there is one injury that was so deep, it barely missed her artery, and her necklace was embedded in it.
Yeah, and you can't measure that when you're doing it to yourself.
No, and let's think about this. Look at Scream, right? The very end of Scream, and if you haven't seen Scream, I'm sorry if I'm spoiling it for you, but that movie came out like 11 billion years ago. So if you didn't see it 30 years ago, you're probably not going to see it now, so I'm not really spoiling anything. Whenever they were setting the stage to set up Sydney's dad, they didn't stab themselves, they stabbed each other to make it more realistic.
Right.
So
I don't know if she planned it or if it was spur of the moment. I really don't. I can't come to a conclusion on that.
I need to have more. Sorry, Vincent's missing here. I'm talking about the first Scream, not the new one. I haven't seen the new one. But I am going to watch the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D.
Oh, Molson said it wasn't any good.
Mo.
He did.
Yeah, but I haven't watched it yet, babe.
Well,
I was going to
that
say,
doesn't give away anything.
all I was going to say is that, he and I are going to talk about it. Anyway, I I forgot what I was going to say now.
Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right.
No, that's not a spoiler.
It's not a spoiler.
I thought you
No.
Sally said that.
Mm-mm. I missed it. It's probably whenever I was timing everybody out. No, but we just wanted, we're just going to discuss it. He's not the first person that said it's not good. I just, yeah, there's a new one. It's on Netflix, Vincent's Missing Air. It's like, yeah, it just came out the other day. But now I forgot what I was going to say. Crap. Oh, I haven't seen the new Scream, and I don't know if I'm going to unless it starts streaming for free. I'm not paying for that. I'm just still salty about Paramount Plus. It's not even their fault. They're not even the ones that advertised it. It was somebody. It was another, it was an article. Let me tell you, I was irritated about that too, because they made it seem like that's what the article was going to be about. No, it wasn't. It was about the whole crux of the movie, right? And then all the way at the very end of the article is when it says it. And it was also untrue. So I can't make up my mind. I don't think that it was long planned, but I don't think that it was in the heat of the moment, because listen, she went out there to meet Alex because she needed to give him back, what was it? A thermos and a water and a heating pad, for Pete's sake. She didn't have to meet with him to do that. He had a whole porch couch. She could have left that on the porch couch with a note and been done.
Yeah, the whole thing is weird, and how Jason showed up. The whole thing's crazy.
Yes. Because they had gone. So Max and Ezra had gone over to Jason Mengel's house because they were going to get a painting out of his bedroom to swap paintings. Okay.
Right.
And
above
then
the bed.
Right. And then she had her amends letters to right, exactly, Vincent's Missing Air. There was a plan, not a good one, but a plan. And just the state doesn't have to prove this, but I just want to know because I'm nosy. What was her end game? Let's say everything came together exactly like Ezra had planned, and the cops and everybody saw it like she wanted them to see it. She was the victim, right? And she had no other choice but to unalive Alex. It was either her or him. Then what?
I think that she did all this stuff because of Jason, like the other Jason. She said he SA'd her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if she went out there and was going to say, Alex tried to do the same thing, and then things got out of hand.
Well, that's exactly what she did say, babe.
Yeah, but I mean, she was just going to say it, and he wasn't going to be unalived, but things got out of hand, and it got a little further than she meant for it to. I just think she did everything that she did for a long time because of Jason.
But here's the thing. This is the only part about that doesn't quite fit. Clearly, she didn't lose Jason because he friggin' showed up at Alex's house.
Right. I think she texted him and said she was going over there. Or no, that's not right. She told Max, and Max told him, right? Max told him that she seemed off.
trying to remember.
I think that's what he told the officer.
He said, yeah, he said he saw her coming out of Racy's, and Max said she didn't look right, and Jason said she didn't look right, and he followed her out there.
Right.
They were in the car when Jason was brought over to where they were by the other, the other cop.
Right.
So why would she need to go through with any of this? Jason was right there. And they clearly couldn't have been on horrible terms because she had just been at Jason's house in his bedroom taking a painting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I think she likes to play the victim. Or she said these things to Jason because she cheated on him, and that's a way to say, I didn't really cheat on you. I was SA'd.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
which is awful for anyone to do, because I had a friend that went to prison because of that.
it is awful for anybody to do. For one, it's part of the reason why SA victims don't come forward because situations have occurred like this, and they're questions and not believed until they are believed. And then, so that makes them not come forward. But on the flip side of that, innocent people are accused and convicted of it, and it's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, she was having an affair with him, and her husband found out, so she said that she was SA'd and he went to prison.
That's awful. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we'll have some more. First of all, we're not that far away from Jason testifying. I think there's just a few I want to get through before we get to Jason. And so I'm curious about what Jason has to say, and I'm curious about what Ezra is going to have to say. But for tonight.
Have you watched Rebecca Merrifield?
No, I'm only to the doctor.
Okay, you may want to play her because she comes up in the closing. I don't remember what she talks about.
No, I know, babe. I know, but I'm not. This is what I was doing while everybody is waiting for the live at night. During the day, I watch the next witnesses. So I watch every single one of them before I decide who to play. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I will definitely, and I am going to play her dad. Don't you worry. All right, you guys. So
he's a little hostile.
I can't wait. I am sorry for timing everybody out. Where's Kenny? Please come back. I'm very sorry it was on an accident. I think they know that though, because I feel like there was something said. But anyway,
yeah, he knows.
I think I apologized. All right, you guys. I will talk to you guys all tomorrow. You've been lovely. Thank you, Mo, for coming up. This was a surprise. I didn't even know you were off today or available.
Well, no, I got off early, but I got to work till 2:30 the next 3 nights, most likely. So I figured I'd pop in.
I'm glad you did. All right, you guys. How's Molly doing? Kez, check before I go because I'm curious. I was wondering how that went, how the pupper is doing, and you gotta tell Mo because she's very worried. Which I am too, but Mo loves Mo's feelings for animals are equal to mine. I worship them, but she will fret more than I will. I'll understand that people, I'll wait till I hear about it and not think about it till I good.
That's why I didn't ask, because I was afraid. Because it'll stay with me for like days.
Okay, Kez chick. All right. Well, if she's doing good, then hopefully everything continues on an upward trajectory, and she just had some little bug or issue or something. Oh, I do. I love animals way more than humans. Animals' behavior makes sense. Except for Alice. Last night, you guys, before I go, I'm going to tell you this story real quick. So my daughter saw these chicken teriyaki rice bowls on the Tickety Talks. And so she sends me the link. She's like, Mom, I want these. Okay. So I get all the things to make the chicken teriyaki bowls, chicken breast, broccoli, white rice. Okay. So I was having, I don't like cooked broccoli. I only like raw broccoli. So I didn't have broccoli with mine. So I just made some rice and a little bit of the chicken breast. I put the plate down because, hello, you like to eat the food and then intersperse with a drink, right? Here comes Alice, whole face on my plate, eating rice, not the chicken, the rice. Her behavior, I still can't figure. I've never seen a cat eat the diverse food types that this one will eat. She's like a goat. So anyway, she likes rice. But I trust animals far more than I trust humans. But anyway, you guys. All right, tomorrow at 8:30, we'll be live and we're going to watch the video and hear from the doctor and see what everybody has to say. All right, you guys. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Okay, bye.
Bye.